The late trainer and mentor of Mike Tyson, Customado, once said that champion fighters are champion liars, that you must learn the art of misdirection to be a top-level professional boxer, because so much of boxing is psychology. Now, I say all that to now go into a quote of Wladimir Klitschko. Klitschko says, and he's talking about the Joshua fight here, he says, "This fight is definitely something we are thinking is going to be great on both sides. One Olympic champion fighting another, one generation fighting another generation. There are lots of questions. Have I still got it? Is Anthony Joshua good enough now? The interest is tremendous. It is amazing, and I am really happy about it. For me, it's an upgrade in my career as a fighter, to fight on the biggest stage I have ever had in front of 90,000 people. It is the toughest challenge I have ever had. He is a copy of me in certain ways, size-wise, and is a world champion." So those are the words of Wladimir Klitschko. Now, why did I start off with a Customado quote, champion fighters are champion liars? Because I don't know what's going on in Klitschko's head. I can't call him out definitively here, but I suspect when he says that this is the toughest challenge he's ever had in his career, fighting Anthony Joshua, I suspect that he don't really believe that. Judging by Wladimir Klitschko's body language in the lead up to this fight, I actually believe that Klitschko thinks this is going to be quite easy. He has gone into fights before where, yes, he was champion, and that's given him more power than he has here against Anthony Joshua in terms of what is going to happen before the fight. The ring, the gloves, so on and so forth. The challengers for his crown when he was champion were kind of at his mercy to a large extent. And that may be not the case here with Joshua, since Joshua is now the champion and Klitschko's the challenger. But still, if you look at some of Klitschko's previous fights, his fight against Tyson Fury is a great example. His fight against Kubrat Pulev, the David Haye fight, even the Povetkin fight. You look at his body language and you look at his demeanor in the lead up to those fights, and it was intense. He wasn't all jovial and jokey and happy and condescending of his opponent. He may have tried to be condescending to Tyson Fury, but it certainly backfired. And Tyson Fury got the better of the pre-fight preliminaries at the press conferences and what have you. So he was very tense and intense. Not even tense, let me just say intense in the build-up to all of those particular fights that I mentioned. But in the build-up to this Joshua fight, he's jovial, he's jokey, he's kind of patronizing and condescending towards Anthony Joshua. Joshua was in New York with Klitschko for a press conference over there, and Klitschko was kind of like jumping up and down in the background while Joshua was having his picture taken. It's like Klitschko's clowning him. And to me, that's indicative of Klitschko's attitude towards this particular fight. I don't think he believes Anthony Joshua is that dangerous. I think he senses trepidation in Joshua, uncertainty. And I think that he probably looks back to that sparring session and thinks that he's got Joshua's number, that he knows which tricks and which moves are going to work against him. So yeah, I'm not sold on this idea that Klitschko believes this is going to be his toughest challenge. It may turn out to be his toughest challenge. We don't know until the fight actually takes place. But I'm just speculating or giving my interpretation of how I think Klitschko is really feeling. And I don't think he sees Joshua as being as dangerous as Tyson Fury. I think he saw Fury as a serious threat, which is why all the shenanigans were played before the fight, because Fury got under his skin, and I think Klitschko started to question himself a little bit, because he was thinking, why is this guy so confident? You know, I know that he can do this, that, and in the ring. He can fight southpaw, he can fight different styles. He's awkward, he's tricky, he's taller than me, he's got longer arms. You know, he's very, very aggressive in terms of his personality. He's not intimidated by me at all. He won't allow me to control him. I do think Klitschko was rattled going into that fight by Fury's behavior and by his demeanor. He's not rattled in the slightest by Anthony Joshua. And I've said this before. I don't want to go on too much about it, but it's my belief that fighters who challenge Klitschko pre-fight and push him and don't act like Mr. Nice Guy in front of him are the kind of guys who Klitschko does kind of worry about. And they make him tense. And I think it's better, if it's really you, to be that way. Now, Joshua's not really that kind of guy to be doing all those kind of things. I mean, he has done it a little bit pre-fight in a couple of fights, but, never anything serious. So it is important to be yourself, but sometimes being yourself it's always the right thing to do, but it might not be good enough. It might take a different kind of character, which you can't be, to upset Wladimir Klitschko. Now, at the end of the day, the only thing that's going to matter is what takes place in the ring. But when you've got a situation between Klitschko and Joshua where there's such a huge experience gap, Joshua hasn't been past 7 rounds, much less been past 7 rounds with a legitimate world level fighter. So the experience gap is massive, and therefore you have to very closely watch the body language of Joshua and try and see where he's at mentally, because the pressure is on. The expectations here are on Joshua. The expectations for once are off Klitschko's shoulders. And all of the pressures on Anthony Joshua, on those big, shoulders of his. Can he take it? I've been very impressed by how he's been able to handle the limelight so far in his career. And people can scoff at that and say, oh, he hasn't fought anybody. Well, you go and try to do what Joshua's done. I'm telling you now, even fighting the modest opposition he's been up against so far, he has done a very good job of keeping his feet on the ground and not allowing pressure to get to him and not allowing himself to freeze up on the occasion. Can he continue that in what is going to be by far the biggest step up in his career so far against Klitschko? And it's not just dealing with the pressure. That's a very big obstacle for Anthony Joshua in this fight, and dealing with the mind games of Klitschko, but also dealing with Klitschko in the ring, which is also very difficult. So, yeah, the pressure really is on Joshua here, and Klitschko's having fun. So we'll see what happens. I personally believe that Klitschko thinks it's going to be a relatively, I don't want to say easy fight, but I don't think he feels as threatened going into the Joshua fight as he did for some of his previous fights. Just my interpretation. I could be wrong. I don't know definitively what's going on in his head, but that's the way I see it. If you see things differently, or if you agree, it's all good. Drop a comment in the comment section below and let me know what you think. All right? It's happening. I'm out.